What's going on, guys? It's Fantasy Stock Exchange here, bringing you back another installment of our Dynasty Decision Series we do over here at the Fantasy Stock Exchange YouTube channel. We're on episode 18. You guys have shown support time and time again on the series. And heck, if you guys are enjoying it, baby, we're going to keep producing it. But before we get into it, Corey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. You guys know the drill as always. If you guys have any Dynasty related questions, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of talk about Cam Akers on this one, given the news that we saw this week. But if you have any Dynasty related questions, whether it's should I take this trade? Should I make this move to upgrade my team? Am I a contender? Am I a rebuilder? My rookie draft hasn't happened yet. Who should I pick with this pick? All that can be answered on here. You can reach out to us on Twitter, which are on the screens right now and linked in the description, or you can reach out to us on Discord, which is also linked in the description, totally free to join that. And then you can DM us on there and be featured on an upcoming Dynasty Decisions episode. We're not sure how long we're going to run these into August, because once we start getting into preseason games and things of that nature, we really have to shift focus into redraft. But as long as you guys want us to keep running these, we'll keep running them.
Yep, absolutely. And if you guys are watching this video and haven't already subscribed, please do so. We are on the road to 5,000 subscribers. Trying to hit that as soon as possible. So if you're watching this, haven't seen it before, subscribe and hit the like down below to help us with that YouTube algorithm. But before we get into the first team, as always, we're going to hit the intro. Okay, so let's start off with the first team in the video, and that's going to be from Noodle OG. He lists this team as a Dynasty Superflex half PPR with a half tight end premium, meaning regular positions will get a certain amount of points. Tight end premium would make it so that they get half a point more. So in theory here, half PPR for wide receivers, running backs, full PPR for tight ends. You guys get the drill. It's a 10-team league, and you guys can see the settings on the screen. Quarterbacks, he's got Pat Mahomes, Kirk Cousins in the starting lineup. Running backs, Mixon, Eckler. Wide receiver, Hill, Ridley, Lamb. Tight end, Goddard. And you guys can see the picks there. So basically with his team, he just asks us to outline his trades and also mentions that in his opinion, his weakest points may be running back and quarterback in a team that he really wants to contend for this year. So Corey, right off the bat, what's your first thought on the move of trading a 2022 one and 2023 2 for Calvin Ridley, Lockett, Montgomery, and for Ridley? Sorry, I misread that.
Yeah, so that's a very good trade for Calvin Ridley, in my opinion. I would give up more than that for Calvin Ridley. I know you're not. You always talk about you don't like trading for wide receivers and stuff, but that's a pretty easy smash deal for me, because with that 2022 first, your team's pretty good. I'd imagine that's going to be a mid to late first at some, to some degree, and a 2023 second. I mean, it's an okay value pick, but it's not really anything I'm writing home about. So Calvin Ridley to me is worth 2 firsts. So whether or not you're willing to give up 2 firsts for him, I think that's what his value is. So Calvin Ridley for a first and a second, all day. I think that upgrades your team. Clearly you have, a great 3 stack of wide receivers now because you traded for Calvin Ridley. So I really like that deal for you.
Yeah, no, I fully agree as well. I mean, although in general, maybe not moving a whole lot of draft capital. Well, guess what? You're not moving a lot of draft capital at all. I mean, we're talking about a bona fide top 5, top 6 wide receiver this year for a 1 and a 2. I'm assuming the other guy must have been rebuilding and felt pressure to sell Ridley, but you got him for an absolute coup here. Now we can talk about the next deal. He traded away Tyler Lockett, David Montgomery, 2/3 and a 4th for Tyreek Hill. Man, this is just stealing. This isn't fair. Honestly, I really like David Montgomery, and I think Lockett could be a fine wide receiver 2-3 type on the season. But we're talking about Tyreek Hill. And when you look through the rest of this team, Tyreek Hill is about to help you win a championship. Those other pieces combined don't do that this year for you.
Right. And the picks to me, they're not really worth anything, right? They're 3rd and 4th round picks. We're talking about guys like Tamori and Terry in the 4th round. We're not getting anything in the 4th round. And then in the 3rd round, we're talking at best, you're getting guys like Josh Palmer, Hunter Long, or whatever. So the fact that you're getting a bona fide superstar wide receiver for an inconsistent wide receiver 2-3 option in Tyler Lockett, who also is 29 years old, and David Montgomery, who's going to be, from a dynasty perspective, is a mid RB2. I think you're getting a lot better, and trying to compete and win your championship, obviously, by getting a bona fide wide receiver 1 in Tyreek Hill, and a guy who should be a top 3 receiver for at least the next 2 to 3 years.
Yep, absolutely. And The next deal is just, listen, if anybody in your league is just saying, oh yeah, I got to get as many 2023 firsts as possible, and overlooking the fact that Travis Etienne is on the board at 109, you make this deal anytime you can. He ended up getting the 109, which became Travis Etienne, in exchange for a 2023 first. Listen, I like the prospects of Bijan Robinson, Tank Bigsby, DJ Ukulele. But Travis Etienne is a stud running back that is already in the NFL. The difference alone in terms of time value, you're getting Etienne, a really good, really prosperous running back prospect, 2 years ahead of anybody that you could possibly get in that 2023 draft. Even if it ends up as the 103, the 104, give me Etienne.
Yeah, exactly. And we're talking about Bijan Robinson, Tank Bigsby. Their best outcome is what Travis Etienne is, a first-round running back. That's what their best outcome is, right? So the fact that we're getting Etienne already in the NFL as a first-round running back with the college resume that Travis Etienne has, a 3-down skill set, an ability in pass protection, like we want these 2023 running backs to be what Travis Etienne already is. Yeah, the landing spot might be a little bit up for debate, but a lot of people who are on Travis Etienne are telling people that, you're overvaluing the landing spot. We're not taking into account that Etienne is pretty much a superstar running back talent coming out of college. And this is a guy, like Danny said, you're getting him 2 years ahead of the time that you're going to get the 2023 first.
Yeah, it's not like AJ Brown had a rough landing spot initially going into the NFL. No, stop overlooking that. Travis Etienne at the 109 there is an absolute crime. The fact that you're able to get him for 2023 first, round of applause there on that deal. Yep. And finally, rounding out this deal for a contender, trading the 106 for Austin Ekeler. And listen, it's probably about fair value, but given the circumstances of your team, yeah, I'll take Ekeler there. I mean, you got Ekeler. He's probably going to be your RB1 this year. I know Mixon truthers don't like the sound of that, but yes, Austin Ekeler is a better fantasy football option than Joe Mixon this year. Regardless, though, look in that running back room. You ended up getting Etienne for that 2023 first and Ekeler for that 106. You basically just bolstered your RB quartet, if you will, to make that push. Because, again, your wide receivers are absolutely phenomenal. You got Patrick Mahomes. You got Dallas Goedert. You have a team that's ready to win and compete this year. So getting Ekeler for that 106, who objectively is going to be a better year one output option for you, I absolutely love this deal in the context of your team.
Right. And I'd imagine he's, looking to see, he said his quarterbacks and his running backs are a little bit questionable. I disagree on your running backs. I think your running back core is just fine. Yeah. You go 4 deep at starting running back, obviously, and 4 deep at running back that are going to probably be RB2s or better for the next 2 years or so. Like Miles Sanders really is the only guy that I have questions about long-term. I mean, I guess Joe Mixon as well, but with Joe Mixon, at least I know I'm getting probably a high-end RB2 for the next 2 years guaranteed, and the workload of an RB1, which is definitely what you want to see out of that. Your quarterback situation is concerning because you don't have a first-rounder in 2022 or in 2023 to replace Kirk Cousins if Kellen Mond takes over the starting job by the end of this year or next year or whatever the case is, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is already an older player. So really, your only solidified long-term quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. But I will say, if your team, let's say you suffer a bunch of injuries, or let's say you win the championship this year, right? You win the championship this year, and come next season, you realize that a lot of your players have decreased in value for whatever reason. You could sell off a guy like Joe Mixon or sell off a guy like Tyreek Hill, who are somewhat older assets, maybe Miles Sanders as well, and try and acquire maybe Zach Wilson has a bit of a down rookie season. You could go acquire him. Maybe Mac Jones didn't see the field much as a rookie. You could go acquire him for a guy like Miles Sanders plus or something like that. So I think you have a lot of flexibility to bolster your quarterback core long-term, given the pieces that you have on your team. So I wouldn't force anything. I think you're fine this season to roll with what you have. And this becomes like a next year problem, in my opinion.
Yep. Absolutely agree with that take. So, any closing thoughts, or should we head on to Broncos updates team?
We can go to Broncos update.
So yeah, you guys can see the team on the screen. He's got Herbert, Hurts, and Locke at quarterback. Running back, CMC, Sermon, Gurley, Ramondre Stevenson. Wide receivers, you got Metcalf, Moore, Godwin, Judy, Collins, etc. Tight end, Irv Smith and Eric Ebron. And then he's also got what looks to be all of his picks, including a 2022 third. And then he doesn't have his 2023 second. So you guys can see the trades there. We're going to go through them. And his main questions are, should I make the trade listed? And what else should I do to upgrade my team? So first of all, let's go through the trades that he did. He ended up trading away Nick Chubb, Michael Carter, and a 2022 third for CMC and a 2022 second.
Bravo.
You robbed this guy blind. Like, listen, Michael Carter, we like the talent. He's a flashy player, still 4th-round draft capital. So the Jets, we don't necessarily know what's going to happen there. Nick Chubb, maybe the best pure runner in the NFL. Objectively, will never give you a higher win rate than what Christian McCaffrey will. And
he might never give you a higher win rate than Christian McCaffrey's rushing totals might give you, not even his receiving. So to me, like when you look at startup value of these assets, right? Like Nick Chubb is what a 2nd-round pick at best, probably.
Yeah, mid to late second.
Right. And CMC it is a super flex league. So he's my 102. So the fact that you're able to get, at most like a late 1st, early 2nd round value in Nick Chubb, and potentially even less than that if people are overvaluing youth in your startup, and you only really had to give up a 7th, 8th round running back in terms of startup value in Michael Carter, I think you absolutely stole that CMC deal there.
Yeah, but as much as you stole the first deal, I hate the second deal. I absolutely hate it. Listen, like, Zach Wilson is a 2nd overall pick. Zach Wilson is landing in a system that is tailor-made for his skill set. Zach Wilson is a guy I have ranked over Jalen Hurts straight up in Dynasty. But the fact that you gave up Wilson and a 1st for Hurts, listen, like, we got to be blunt here. We got to give you guys the best objective advice as possible. You got absolutely robbed on this deal.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if nothing else, Zach Wilson will be a starting quarterback at least for the next 3 years. I cannot say the same thing about Jalen Hurts, right? And Jalen Hurts,
5.
Pardon?
4, possibly 5. You got the 4-year rookie deal. And
right. But I'm saying even if he flames out, he'll be a starting quarterback for 3 years. If he's, what I think he can be, which is a better prospect than Jalen Hurts in a great system that's tailor-made to his skill set, like you said, a front office that seems like they know what they're doing and are really turning their franchise around. Jalen Hurts is a 1-year rental. That's the way. I know he's a young quarterback, but that is the way I view Jalen Hurts, because I don't think the Eagles view Jalen Hurts as a long-term option. I think they know they have 2, potentially 3 first-rounders. If Carson Wentz works out in Indianapolis, they'll get an additional first-rounder next year. And I think with all the chatter we're hearing about Deshaun Watson to the Eagles, with the chatter that they wanted to get Zach Wilson themselves, it seems like they're not invested in Jalen Hurts, and they're going to use him this year, but next year they're going to be in the quarterback market, whether it's Watson, whether it's a rookie quarterback, whatever the case is. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a very long-term starting quarterback for dynasty purposes.
Yep, absolutely agree. So we can add on to the next deal. He ended up sending Bateman a 2022 2nd and a 2024 1st for Godwin. And this is another one. Like,
I love that deal. I love Rashad Bateman. I think Chris Godwin is worth that and then some in that deal. I
disagree here. I would take the Bateman side.
I would not, dude. As much as I love Bateman, let's call a spade here. We got a 24, 25-year-old wide receiver who already has a 1,400-yard receiving season under his belt and is going to be in one of the best offenses in the league this year, potentially have his offense clear up next year, because Antonio Brown will be 34 years old at the start of next season. Rob Gronkowski will be 33 years old. And if he doesn't stay in Tampa, he's going to sign a huge mega extension long-term with another team like the Colts or whoever is going to go out and sign him. I think Chris Godwin's at basement level dynasty value right now. We're talking about a guy that was legitimately talked about as the overall dynasty wide receiver 1 this time last year. So I think this is a steal. The fact that you didn't have to give up a first rounder in this year or in next year's draft class, obviously at this point in time, he didn't have his 2023 first, but I think you stole him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably decently fair value. Whenever I can get a coup for a wide receiver, I like moving down and acquiring picks. So that's just more so a difference in philosophy.
2022 first, I think this is a lot closer of a trade. But the fact that it's a 2024 first makes me think it's pretty easily Godwin on that side of the deal.
Yeah, it's fair. Again, that's more so a difference in philosophy. But anyways, the next deal, I think we can both agree that given the recent news, absolutely fleece the other guy, man. Like, honestly, well done. I'm assuming this deal was made before the Akers injury, but it really worked out in your favor that you're able to not only get rid of Akers before the injury happened, but get this type of package for him. You talk about 2 firsts, a 2nd and a 3rd. Trey Sermon, who I think is a young 3rd-round pick in a really good system with the San Francisco 49ers.
2 ones in Trey Sermon prior to the Akers injury probably
was already a good deal.
Appropriate value. And then the fact that you got DJ Moore in a 2nd rounder and a 3rd rounder for Gallup, you robbed him blind. Even if Akers didn't get hurt, I would take your side of the deal.
Yep, absolutely. So even with Akers not being hurt, you had a really good deal. The fact that Akers also got hurt, round of applause here. That was a very good move. So basically here we got it as a 3-1/2-2 here. In terms of if we're scoring the deals. The next deal, though, I'm not the biggest fan here. I listen. I like Metcalf. He's a really good wide receiver, but giving up Pitts and this package for him is just a little too much for my liking.
I agree. There's not much analysis that I need. I think if you would have given up, would Pitts and Cup been like fair value, or Pitts and Chenault maybe been
Pitts
fair
and
value?
Cup, probably, but giving up both, like honestly, there's an argument to be made that Pitts and Metcalf are probably similar, especially in a tight end. Oh wait, okay, no, the other team was tight end premium. Never mind. Okay, regardless, in a regular PPR league, probably Pitts and Chenault, Pitts and Cup alone would get it done. But the fact that you sent both is probably a little too rich for my blood.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the nice thing about acquiring a guy like DK Metcalf is that you have no question about like his ability long term. We just have questions about his situation long term. So that's, it's something that you got to deal with. But nonetheless, I think it's still a fine trade to make if you're really all in on Metcalf.
Yep, absolutely agree. So then he's got the potential trade here. He says, should I make this deal? And I really love David Montgomery. I think he's a very underrated option, but you're not paying an underrated price here.
No,
straight up.
No.
If you were to give up like the 2022 1 and 2, okay, maybe I can fathom giving that type of deal. But giving up Sermon, Collins, and even although those 2/3 may seem like meaningless, just adding that on top of the value that I already think David Montgomery isn't worth, like I wouldn't do this deal.
Yeah, I think a fair trade might be like Sermon, Collins, and a second for Montgomery. Or like, and maybe you could throw in one of the thirds as well to make that an even deal. I think the fact that you're giving a first plus Sermon, that's too rich for my blood. I think Sermon himself is going to have a pretty decent amount of value going into the season, especially once the inevitable point happens where Raheem Mostert gets injured and Sermon's value absolutely skyrockets in Dynasty because we'll see him on the field getting a full workload. And I'm willing to bet that happens at some point this season. So if you don't believe in Sermon, if you want to sell Sermon, I would wait until that moment happens. I would not sell him before that.
Yep, absolutely. And just what else should I do to upgrade my team? We'll quickly breeze this. This is a type of team that, again, like a few weeks into the season, you kind of see what points you're going up, what direction you're going. You can make adjustments, whether you want to win now, whether you want to rebuild. But to me, this is a retooling team. I don't see with the running back depth you have after CMC and Sermon.
And the quarterback depth after
and the quarterback,
really, to be honest.
Yeah, so I would try to like sell high once, like say Jalen Hurts has a blow up like 33-point game, and you might be able to recoup that Wilson in 2023 first deal back. Hopefully you can do that. But anyways, yeah, hopefully we helped you out. We can go on to the next team. We don't want to drag it on for too long.
Yep.
We got Bourbon's team, and you guys can see here it's a 12-team PPR Superflex tight end premium with a 6-point passing touchdown. I'm curious to see what the actual premium is, but I'm assuming it's just going to be 1.5. So we'll talk about it in the context of a 1.5. So questions he has here. Obviously not going to be competitive first year, but with 2022 first, should I hold them until draft time next year? Do we think the 2022 class will be strong? First and foremost, if you have an abundance of picks in the following year's draft, you hold them up right until they're on the clock. Because guess what? If you have the 2022 104 and you have a guy that is eyeing a Sam Howell, eyeing a Malik Willis, eyeing a Breece Hall, whatever the case may be, rookie fever is going to hit. And guess what? They're going to give you probably 1.3, 1.4 times what that value would actually be worth if they were to actually make a deal. So you hold that pick until it's on the clock. And do we think the 2022 class will be strong? I think the 2022 class is criminally underrated right now because people are just brushing them off, looking towards that 2023 class. So if you can coop up 2022 picks on the cheap because people just want to talk shit about them for absolutely no reason, do so. Because at the end of the day here, those 2022 picks, when they're on the clock, in terms of time value, are going to be worth more on the clock than those 2023 picks will be. And you're getting that a full year in advance.
Yeah, I totally agree. I always talk about this every year. Doesn't matter how bad a draft class is, there's going to be people that want Isaiah Spiller, people who want Sam Howell, people who want whoever is on the board. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago too, but Javonte Williams and Zach Wilson didn't exist prior to this season as potential dynasty assets. We didn't know who they were. There's going to be one or two guys that are probably first-round dynasty rookie picks next year that we don't even know about right now. And they're going to have value, obviously, and make this class a little stronger than it already is. So you always got to keep that take that into account. I think with 5 first-round picks, when you're on the clock, I'd probably only be looking to spend 3 or 4 of them and try and trade 1 or 2 of them away during the draft, like Danny said. So that's kind of my philosophy on rookie picks. And like Danny said, you do not trade those picks until like we're in prime draft season, potentially even, when you're on the clock.
Yep, absolutely agree. Of my depth fodder wide receivers, who would you actively try to trade and who should I keep? Let's take a breeze look through. Denzel Mims is one that stands out to me.
Gabe Davis too.
Gabe Davis, DF Bean Counter, if you guys don't already know him, really good follow on Twitter, basically outlined the effect of face planting wide receivers in their rookie years. And the actual hit rates of those guys after their rookie years of not producing is extremely low. So there's still going to be people that are super high on Mims, Davis, because they like them coming out. If you can recoup second round value for them, which you may be able to do, I'll take that any day.
Yeah, I totally agree. In terms of the rest of your wide receivers, though, I think being the fact that you're building a long-term team, I actually really like some of the options that you have with Judy, with Bateman, with Marshall, with Higgins. I think those guys are going to have a lot of long-term value as opposed to right now. There might be some people that are lower on them, but I think long-term it's all going to work itself out.
Regarding general outlook of the team, what do I need to add to be competitive? Honestly, man, sit on those 2022 firsts. Build this team to compete in 2022 because listen, you got a very strong nucleus of young ascending talent. This is the type of team where you wait on the clock in 2022, see what type of value you can get, and you can make upgrades at that point. I'm not worried about competing in 2021. Listen, like this is already going to be a team that should at least mid-table your league. And then in 2022 on, you're set for dominance.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Do you want to go really quick, rapid fire some of these startup trades? We'll just go like which side wins, not really much analysis just because we don't want this one to go too long. But he says during the startup, he gave up Josh Allen at the 102. He received the 209, the 409, a first rounder next year, and a second rounder. And that 209 became AJ Brown, and that 409 became Javonte Williams. Phenomenal deal.
Love this phenomenal deal. And this is the beauty of trading down. I always talk about it throughout the offseason. Listen, people are going to eye Josh Allen on that startup clock and not realize that, hey, this 2-4 rookie 1 and 2 next year that I'm giving up is going to end up being AJ Brown, Javonte Williams, and extra draft capital. So phenomenal deal. Talking about the next deal he gave up. So he got AJ Brown, then he gave him up. Basically traded AJ Brown, Godwin in a second to recoup back Trevor Lawrence and Baker Mayfield. So in theory here, he's downgrading from Allen to Lawrence, but he's also picking up Javonte Williams, a first and a second, is basically what I'm gathering from the initial move. Yeah. So if you're netting those two deals, I do like your side there.
Yeah, and the fact that you're giving up, and as much I love those two wide receivers in Dynasty, right? Like AJ Brown and Godwin, I mean, they're basically the same player in my opinion. And you're getting two like higher value positions. You're getting quarterbacks in a super flex league. So I think you made up whatever value you think you're lacking in terms of high-end talent from A.J. Brown to Trevor Lawrence and Godwin to Baker Mayfield. The fact that it's the quarterback position definitely bodes well for you.
Yep, absolutely agree. So I like the net neutral of those two moves. The third trade, he ended up giving up 411 and 512. Wait, what? Okay, so you ended up giving up Baker Mayfield, but then you got him back, I guess?
I guess, yeah.
I don't know, but regardless, you got DJ Moore and T. Higgins out of the deal, which yeah, I mean, I like that move.
It looks like he moved the 512 a couple times, not necessarily Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, they ended up getting Baker Mayfield back. Okay.
Yeah.
Very active trader. I like it already. But anyways, liking that move. Those two young ascending wide receivers, especially. We don't have to touch about it more. But then you gave up Josh Jacobs, Myles Gaskin, and Marquise Brown in theory, 6, 8, and 13 to get the 5 and the 10, Mayfield and Harris. I'm doing that deal any day of the week. At the end of the day here, you're basically moving up a round and 2 rounds to just give up a 13-round fodder pick. I'm doing that.
Yeah, and you're getting a quarterback out of that too, and a young quarterback that should be, long-term secure with his franchise too.
Yep, absolutely agree. And the next deal, because it's a tight end premium, he was able to recoup a farm for Kittle, 2 first, Henry and Jarwin.
I think I would have preferred a guy like Kmet if you were going to get another tight end in return instead of, Hunter Henry, who I think is more of a short-term guy. Same with Blake Jarwin. I think that's probably the direction I would have went if you were going to get a tight end in return for George Kittle. But the 2 first definitely help you out in a rebuilding situation. So I can't blame you for that.
Absolutely. In a rebuilding situation, you're recouping the value there. So I like it. And similar move to this. Yes, I really like DJ Moore, but you're getting still a young, talented wide receiver on a 1-year deal, probably going to sign a big deal next offseason and getting a 2022 first. So for the context of your situation, relying on either as your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and cutting points for your ultimate rebuild for 2022. I like this move for you. So we can move on to the next team, or is there anything you want to say?
No, we're good. A lot of these
Perfect.
next couple teams that we're going to get into don't have as many trades in them, so they won't be quite
Okay.
as long. So we'll get into Wyatt Johnson's team right now. It's a 10-team Superflex PPR. Tight end gets 1.5 tight end premium, obviously, so half a point more than running backs and wide receivers, and it's a 6-point per passing touchdown. So we got pretty high value quarterbacks in this kind of league. Wyatt Johnson, basically, he just wants to know what we thought of his trade back. So he traded back from the 103 to the 106. And he got a 4th rounder in return, and he gave away his 5th rounder, basically. So what are your thoughts on that kind of trade? So let's say you're at the 103, and to me, the 103 is either Josh Allen or Christian McCaffrey. That's who I view the 103 to be. And then the 106 is more like, Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson in my rankings. That's how I view the 103 to 106.
Well, yeah, it looks like he ended up getting Lamar with that 106 because it's in his team. So
yeah,
in theory here, you'd be downgrading from a McCaffrey, Allen, and getting a Lamar. Contextually, like looking after the draft, this trade is probably about fair, even value. However, I would have looked for it to get more in the actual startup room itself, because let's be honest here, when people are on the clock and they see the name Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, they're always willing up to give up more. So you got the 4 for 5 swap, which is nice. I probably would have tacked on at least a 2022 second on this deal just to feel more comfortable about the move back.
Yeah, right. And if that 4th ended up being Javonte Williams, for example, that you traded your 5th to get the 4th, and like that was like a tier break, then it might have ended up working out. But either way, I think in terms of raw value from the pick numbers, we don't really know who the players were necessarily. I do think you probably could have tacked on a 2022 second, maybe even a 2022 first if somebody was willing to do it. Or, they might have thrown in like a 9th round startup pick as well.
Yep, absolutely agree. Questions, what should he be looking to do? Judging this team, so you got a very young Lucas, obviously Lamar and Lance as your main 2 quarterbacks. Running backs, with Gibson and Williams is the top 2 there. Wide receiver, like you literally just got a full young ascending team in all your picks. Again, this is a type of team, see it out 2022. See how your first few weeks go. Judge your direction in 2021 from there, and whether you want to make it a dominant 2022 team or potentially try to compete in 2021.
Yeah, I think given the fact that he doesn't have, I kind of wish, looking at his team, I think he probably should have like an extra first next year or like an extra first in 2023, which it doesn't look like he does. So I would say, like Danny said, go into the season, see what's happening with your team, and don't be afraid to sell some guys off for some draft capital. If AJ Brown is coming out and lighting the world on fire, or Jamar Chase pulls a Justin Jefferson, and you can get 3 1s or something like that for him, then I wouldn't be opposed to making a trade similar to that, because it's probably going to be tough in a 10-team league to compete with this team until you get some additional pieces that step up. But I do think this team will probably be competitive in year 1. So probably a house money type year that you're looking at. You're probably going to be able to compete to some degree, but probably not the best team in your league. And he also says been trying to get Ayuk and Bateman because he has both of the quarterbacks of those wide receivers. Basically, what would you be looking to give up on his team to acquire those players?
Well, the name that really sticks out to me, if you can somehow turn like Deontay Johnson into a second for either of those guys, like I'm doing that like on the fly.
Would you be willing to downgrade from either Chase or Brown into one of those guys and get an additional first on top of it potentially? Like if you could trade Jamar Chase for Ayuk and a first, would you do it?
Yes, easily.
Yeah. So those are the guys that I would probably be looking to use would be your higher end guys, AJ Brown and Jamar Chase. Because if you can downgrade from AJ Brown, get Ayuk in 2 firsts or Bateman in 2 firsts or something for AJ Brown, then I would probably be willing to do something like that.
Yep, absolutely agree. So we can go on to the next team. That's going to be CabreIsaac. And looking at the team right now, it's a 12-team super flex with a tight end premium. Can you give me an evaluation of my team and whether or not I can compete or if I'm stuck in the middle? So gets to see the team. Basically got all of his picks on the right side. Quarterbacks, he's got Herbert, Rodgers, Love, Heineke. Running backs, Harris, Dobbins, Edmonds, and some fodder. Wide receivers, Metcalf, McLaurin, Smith, Jones. Tight ends, you got Higbee and Howard. So what are your initial thoughts right off the bat? Because the one thing that I do think is he says, am I stuck in the middle? And that's my first initial reaction when I see this right now.
Yeah, this looks like a team that is probably stuck in the middle to some degree because you don't have a lot of running back depth. You just really have Najee Harris and J.K. Dobbins as primary guys, and at quarterback, you really only have the Green Bay quarterback and Justin Herbert. And then wide receiver, like you're pretty solid at wide receiver, but that's pretty much your only position that I would say is ready to like compete now in terms of, the rest of your team and the rest of your league. So
And
yeah, go
even
ahead.
I was gonna say, even with the wide receivers, like after the top three, it falls off pretty dramatically. Like, yeah, I think Ruggs is a fine option, but at the same time, I don't want to rely upon him for immediate production right now
Right.
if I'm a winning team. So overall, like, you're kind of stuck in the middle. This is the theme of the video. See what you're doing in the first few weeks of 2022. If you have some high performing players, you can ship them off for reform and retool this team into a 2022, 2023 type of contender.
Yeah, and like we've mentioned for a number of other teams in the past couple of weeks, I would shop Metcalf and see what you can get for him, because he is probably your best asset overall on your team outside of Justin Herbert and maybe Najee Harris, but
Dobbins.
and Dobbins too. But like DK Metcalf has a lot of value right now. We haven't really heard a whole lot on the Russell Wilson wants a trade front, so I would probably try and get ahead of that, because when it comes out that Russell Wilson wants a trade, and it probably will at some point again, then it's going to be harder to sell Metcalf. So I would be looking to shop Metcalf now, try and acquire some more draft capital. It looks like you do have like decent draft capital. You have all your picks still, so you can retool your team naturally through the draft. But like Danny said, when you're in the season, see how you're doing. If you're in 2021, if you're competing right away, then you can go for the championship. Let's say Rodgers comes back to Green Bay, you should be in okay shape there. But overall, I think the depth of your team specifically gives me a lot of angst.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. I'm of the same boat here. I don't think there's a team that can really make some noise this year. But anyways, anything else you want to say on this, or are we pretty much done here?
Yeah, like what Danny said, basically, you'd have to have a lot break right. Like nobody can get hurt on your team, because if you lose one running back, then you're starting Chase Edmonds or Tony Pollard or someone like that. If you lose one quarterback, you're starting nobody pretty much, because it's like only one of these Green Bay quarterbacks is going to be a starter. And then if you lose Metcalf, you're starting Henry Ruggs every week or Marvin Jones. So yeah, it's going to be tough for you to compete unless everybody stays healthy.
Absolutely. So we can get on to the next team. That's going to be from Shabang. So I like that, Shabang. But anyways, 12 team super flex. And guys can see the team on the screen. Watson, Mayfield, Brady, Bridgewater, main quarterbacks. Running backs, you got Gibson, ETN in particular. Wide receivers, Robinson, Thielen, Anderson, Cooks in particular. Tight ends, you got Gronk and Everett. He's also got 3 2022 firsts and 2 2023 firsts. So overall, he says, took over this team this year, total rebuild, made a few trades. Think I could have did better, in my opinion. Basically, would like to know what's the best route to go to content in 2022 if possible. So let's read off the trades and let's talk about the potential route he can take. So first deal, he traded away Julio Jones and Mike Evans for Michael Thomas, Jalen Reagor, Josh Reynolds in a 2022 first. Looking at that trade on face value right now, in theory here, like, oh, wait, not even in theory. Like, I misread it. Yeah, I think you won this deal.
Yeah. And I mean, we have the news, breaking news. If you guys don't know about this, we have the news that Michael Thomas
unfortunately
underwent surgery like a couple weeks ago, and is probably going to miss the first 6 weeks, first 8 weeks of the regular season because of that surgery. So the fact that you acquired, and again, he looks like he traded away Michael Thomas after this, so it doesn't actually matter. But I'm just going to view this trade at face value if you just made it today. Obviously, you won that deal long term, because Michael Thomas and Mike Evans, I would easily take Michael Thomas there, as much as I hate to say it as a Bucs fan. And then Julio Jones for Jalen Reagor and Josh Reynolds in a 2022 first. Yeah, I think you made away with that deal pretty well. And then I actually really like the subsequent deal that he made after this involving Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I was thinking about it at the time that he made the deal. Obviously, with the recent news, you could probably make a case that it's a lot closer than it was initially. But talking about the next deal, I mean, you basically shipped Thomas, Fodder in the 2023 second in return for Allen Robinson, Scotty Miller, and 2 firsts. So judging right off the bat, Allen Robinson is not far off from a dynasty asset comparatively to Michael
Allen
Thomas.
Robinson in a first should be more than enough to equal what Michael Thomas is worth.
I would say Allen Robinson probably in a second is probably what Thomas
I would probably need a first if I was the Michael Thomas owner trading away him.
At the very least, then we'll say A-Rob in the 2022 first for Thomas in the 2023 second. We'll just say that's an even net value. So in theory, you basically got Scotty Miller and a first for Khalil Herbert.
Yeah,
you won that deal.
Yeah, totally. I think both of those trades, it looks like you won. It looks like you made your team a lot better. And he also says basically the owner before him, so I guess whoever he orphaned this team from, they traded away Ridley, Lamb, and Kmet for Baker Mayfield, Travis Etienne. It was probably a draft pick at the time, Tom Brady and Robbie Anderson. So yeah, I mean, he traded away 2 of the top 7 or 8 consensus dynasty wide receivers for ETN, who's a great asset, and then Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady, who are, lower level quarterbacks comparatively to the wide receivers that he gave up. So yeah, the previous owner didn't do you any favors, but it looks like you've done a pretty good job since you've taken over the team.
Yep, absolutely. So basically, what's the best route to go to contend in 2022? The main glaring weakness of this team is the running back position. After Gibson and ETN, you have basically no usable pieces whatsoever. The main areas of focus, I would say, is you have a lot of aging wide receivers that have
acquiring
really good
that wide receiver
value.
To me is the biggest weakness on this team, because if you are competing in 2022, I don't think necessarily Allen Robinson's going to be useless next year, but I think his peak value is only going to, go down as he gets older. And it's probably in your best interest to, once the season starts, because I would imagine that's when you can get the most value for these guys, Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen, potentially even Robbie Anderson too, Brandon Cooks. These guys need to be off your roster by the end of the season, I would say. I would try and trade these guys away for future picks. I'm not sure what you're going to be able to get, but if you can, let's think about last year. We saw a bunch of rookies struggle towards the start of the season, and mid-season point, there was like a buying window for them. So if Devontae Smith, for example, is struggling at the beginning of the season, I would go out and acquire Devontae Smith and potentially a first rounder on top of it and see if you can move that, make that deal for Allen Robinson.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree there. I'm doing that trade all day, every day. So I like that move. And again, with Thielen, Anderson, Cooks, even if you get like for Thielen specifically, if you can get like a rookie 2 and 3 maybe for him, you could probably net that type
Brady
of deal.
And Gronk too. Like they should probably be off your team at midseason. So overall, you're kind of in no man's land from some of your assets because you do have somewhat of an aging team, but you do have some cornerstone pieces like Deshaun Watson, like Antonio Gibson, like Travis Etienne that can help you compete in the future. And you have 5 first-round picks. So that really helps you out as well. So I would continue to add draft capital. This might be, you said, to contend in 2022. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I think this is a 2023 team.
I absolutely agree. So overall, again, try to youthen up this team. Aside from that, you're in a really good position with those draft capital. Just make sure those aging assets aren't entering your team going into the 2022 offseason. So we can head on to the next team, and that is going to be from Ryan. It's actually a question, so you can take it away with this.
Yeah, so Ryan's in an 8-man league, so a very shallow league, obviously, a 2-quarterback league, 6 point per passing touchdown. So very, very valuable quarterbacks scoring in this kind of league. And he's wondering basically what he should do at 101 and 103. He currently holds those 2 picks in the draft. You guys can see his draft picks on the screen there. He said that he was trying to trade down from 101, which is the original pick that he had, but nobody wanted to trade up for Mahomes, and he wasn't looking to, just take Mahomes. He wanted to, follow our advice. What we usually say is trade down when you have that 101, collect more assets, but nobody was willing to do that. So he said, screw it. If nobody wants to trade down, up, I'm going to trade up, because it seems like everybody is overvaluing their mid-round picks. So now he holds the 101 and the 103, and he's wondering what he should do with those picks. What are your thoughts on like the players? If he's going to stick and pick at those picks, what players would you select?
In a 2-quarterback league, listen, 6 point passing touchdown. Like, yeah, that probably supplements the 8-man aspect of it. The fact that it's 6 point passing touchdown, the fact that it's 2 quarterbacks rather than a super flex. That's typically what you would see in a 12-man super flex versus this. So in terms of quarterback value, it's probably similar there. I would personally go Patrick Mahomes. Again, he is the safest asset in fantasy football. Listen, I love Christian McCaffrey. He is fantastic, but the reason why he's the clear 102 to me is because he's a running back, and Patrick Mahomes is legitimately going to be the highest valued quarterback for maybe the next 8 to 10 years. Like, you can't guarantee that level of value from any other player in fantasy football. Listen, I love Kyle Pitts. That's probably the only person that is even remotely close in having a stranglehold of value on his position. And Patrick Mahomes is just that guy. I mean, he's that guy, pal. 25 years old, already has an MVP under his trophy. Like, he is going to repeatedly, as people come in, people draft, get the value. So I personally would go Patrick Mahomes, as much as I love CMC. In terms of that 103 spot, I told him, I mean, my 102 is currently Jonathan Taylor, but he mentioned that his league might be a little bit lower on Jonathan Taylor, not realizing the value of longevity at that position. So if you can trade down, if you can get, let's say, the 109 in a mid-round pick, or the 107 in a mid-round pick, move down and still be able to coop up Jonathan Taylor, that's probably the direction I would go.
Right. And if you were to stick and pick at 101, 103, I would go Mahomes and Allen or Mahomes and McCaffrey, whatever one. He said that whichever one he doesn't pick at 101, the other one's going at 102, basically between McCaffrey and Patrick Mahomes. So it looks like Mahomes and Allen is a good start to me. Like, I know you don't necessarily want to pick two players that high because he is missing a lot of mid-round picks, given the fact that he did trade up to 103, and that's a little scary. But if you have to stick and pick at those draft spots and nobody's giving you the appropriate value to trade down, then just pick those players and trade them later, because Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, maybe once the draft is over, people realize how valuable these guys are, and they're willing to give you, Jonathan Taylor plus for a Josh Allen. And then that way you basically essentially traded down in the startup, even though it's after the draft.
Yep, absolutely agree. So we can get on to the next team here, and that's going to be from Matteo. So you can take it away with this one.
Yeah, and Matteo, you can see his team is on the board right there. It looks like he has a lot of picks in his rookie draft, which hasn't happened yet. So what he's basically asking is, should he blow this team up and go for a full rebuild? What moves would we make? And he got a couple offers for Deebo Samuel. I wish I could say the same. I can't trade him in our league. But basically, what are your thoughts on this team? Do you think this can compete? Do you think it's close? Given the fact that he hasn't had his rookie draft yet, he could still add, at 108, he could still add a Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne to this running back core. What are your thoughts on this team overall?
This is a team I'm not looking to compete with. I'm sorry. Genuinely, I got to be honest with you. Wide receiver 1 at Odell Beckham. Wide receiver 2, Deebo Samuel. Outside of Gibson, not really any usable long-term. Actually, you got Dylan too. Not really usable long-term running back after those guys.
You really only have three cornerstone pieces, with just Prescott, Gibson, and Andrews.
Yeah, so you do have 2 firsts in 2022, which I really like. I would continue to add to that haul. Again, Odell Beckham is the perfect sell high guy, after week 5. If he's having a good start to the season, if he's looking I'm not going to say the Odell Beckham of old, because I don't think anybody expects that. But if he's a fringe top 15 to 20 wide receiver in those first few weeks, that's a guy I'd look to be selling off for a first round.
Someone might give you a first for him too if they need a wide receiver.
So those are the type of moves I'd make. Nothing particularly right now. Maybe the only piece right now, if it's a win now player and somebody wants to, give you a second for Aguilar and Jones, these are the types of moves I'm making. These fodder, older pieces that can probably contribute more to win now teams. Just get them off my team. I'm shedding points.
Too stands out as a guy that I would do that with. Tom Brady as well. Sure. Tom Brady's a hard one to sell because everybody knows how old he is. But if you can get good value for Tom Brady, even if you have to package him with something, if somebody, let's say you're on the board at 308 in your rookie draft because you haven't had your rookie draft yet, and you can give somebody the 308 and Tom Brady for a young wide receiver or something like that, just do it. Just get him off your team, because he's really not going to be able to make an impact on your team long term, which is unfortunate, obviously, because you do have some cornerstone pieces that are in their primes right now, like Prescott, like Andrews, and like Gibson. But it looks like you're probably going to have to punt this to 2023 and beyond. Yeah. And specifically during your rookie draft, I would give you the piece of advice that at 108 and 203, see what you can get for those picks during your rookie draft, because somebody might, especially at 203, if Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, whoever's on the board, they might be willing to give you a future first for that pick. And I think that's probably a move I would make given your current situation.
Yeah, and call me crazy. I'm the biggest Cowboys fan, biggest Dak Prescott advocate there is. But if someone's willing to offer you 3 firsts and a young piece for Dak Prescott, given the context of this team, I'd be looking to make a move like that as well.
Right, and maybe even Andrews as well. Gibson, this is you got to tear this thing down. You're not winning this with this team and with this core. You have a lot of meh pieces, a couple really good pieces, but the real thing that you should be looking for is draft capital right now.
He also says what type of value should I be looking to get for Deebo Samuel? If you can get anything in the realm of, you have the 203. I was about to say the 203 would probably be a decent pick to get in return for him. Anything above that, you're making value for him, because you're talking about the Rashad Batemans, Elijah Moores, Jalen Waddles. Those are all guys I would take over Deebo Samuel.
I would take Terrace Marshall even too over him too. So if you can get 204, 205 for in return for Deebo Samuel, I'd make a trade like that in a heartbeat. Or if you can even get, someone might be willing to give you 2 seconds in the future, or a second, a third, and a future third or something like that in the future. And I think selling Deebo Samuel isn't a bad idea, because I think people are going to realize real quick that this guy really just can't stay healthy. It's been a problem for him for 6 years now, going back to his college days.
Yep, unfortunately. So overall, we can get on to the next team, or actual trades. So this is actually going to come from Nick Tannocore. He messaged me on Twitter. The first move, absolutely love. We're going to go over it, but he basically shipped off Chase Edmonds a 2022 3 and a 2024 3. And in return, got a 2024 1 and a 2023 2 and a 2022 2. So overall, in theory, you're upgrading those two.
You got the
threes.
3 best assets in the deal.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. I think the best asset in the deal is the first in 2024. The second best asset in the deal is the 2022 second, and the third best asset is the 2023 second. Maybe you could make the argument that for a win now contender, Chase Edmonds might be a better asset than some of those second round picks, but I don't really believe in Chase Edmonds very, very much. I think he's going to be the same Nyheim Hines like fantasy asset that he's been his whole career pretty much. So maybe he's a bit better than that this year because they don't have necessarily an elite running back, but I think this time next year they're going to have a completely different backfield.
And like as much as I like the explosiveness, the efficiency of Edmonds, realistically, what is the ceiling in terms of his range of outcomes this year? Like RB14?
I mean, I guess his ceiling technically would be like what Tariq Cohen did a couple years ago, but at the same time, I don't think we can expect that kind of output because Kyler Murray is so mobile that he's not going to throw to him that much. And
James Conner has a more significant role on the goal line. So yeah, I do agree there. The fact that you're turning a short-term asset into a long-term appreciating asset with the 2024 one, excellent work. Another deal, he messaged this in the Discord, and it's complete robbery. Just to add salt on the wound, he got 15 fab just to set the tone. But, he ended up shipping up Denzel Mims in a 2022 second for a 2022 first and 15 fab. And listen,
that 15 fab might be worth Denzel Mims. No, I'm just fucking around. But like 2022 first is by far the best asset in this deal. Like next,
not
like
close.
This isn't close.
Yeah, absolutely not close. And the fact that you're able to turn Mims, who we mentioned the face planners earlier on, in a second into that first, bravo, well done. We can get on to the next deal. I think we don't have to talk about Denzel Mims for too much longer. So we'll talk about the next deal. This is the type of deal I was talking about in the previous team. If you can ship a Marvin Jones, who, yes, he's a good, decent flex depth piece for a contender. But if you're a rebuilder and you can coop Tyler Johnson, Tommy Tremble in a third, that's the type of value I'd be looking for in a Marvin Jones.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Marvin Jones is probably not even worth that much, to be honest. I would probably expect this kind of package for a better version of Marvin Jones, like Antonio Brown, for example, like a win now receiver of that realm. I think this is the type of package you could see in return, or even like a Jarvis Landry might even return this kind of package. So yeah, great deal there. I think you should have gotten probably a bit less than what you got. If you got Tremble in the third, I still would have done this deal.
Yep, absolutely. And the final trade of the video, or final team of the video, that's going to be from Matt Clark. You can take it away here.
Yeah, and it looks like Matt's a 10-team Superflex PPR with a half PPR tight end premium, so 1.5 total for the tight end position. And you guys can see it looks like he has a lot of draft capital in the future. He's got 3 firsts in 2022, 5 firsts in 2023, and 2 firsts in 2024. And then on his team, it looks like he's building, the classic productive struggle young team. He's got some great young assets to build around, like Trevor Lawrence, like Trey Lance, like Brandon Ayuk, like Justin Jefferson, Deontay Johnson, Cole Kmet. So a number of good young assets to build around. And he basically wants us to go over a couple of his trades that he made to get to this point. And we'll start real quick and just go kind of rapid fire with these. He gave up Calvin Ridley and Jeff Wilson for McCole Hardman, 2 firsts and 2 seconds. Phenomenal deal.
Beautiful deal.
Again, I love Calvin Ridley, but to me, the value for Calvin Ridley is a 2022 first and a 2023 first. So the fact that you essentially got McCole Hardman, a second, and another second for Jeff Wilson is a great deal.
Yeah, I was about to say whether you want to look at it as the 2 firsts or whether what you want to look at it as Hardman, the 2 seconds, and a first. Regardless, you got a first of value extra in this deal. So phenomenal move there. Next move, I'm assuming you made before.
You got extremely lucky with this one, because I think I might have taken Cam Akers on this side of the deal if this situation didn't happen. But yeah, like the fact that you traded away a guy that just tore his Achilles, which is notoriously a very hard injury to come back from for running backs. Even if you got 1 first for Cam Akers, I think it's a good deal. And we haven't really talked about that in depth. We did talk about it on the Cam Akers injury, breaking news video that we put out. But if you can get a first round pick for Cam Akers right now, if you guys are listening to this and you have Cam Akers, you don't know what to sell him for. If you can get a first round pick, I would sell him. Honestly, as much as I believe in Cam Akers, the player, I had a couple people DM me. Someone said that they got Juju in a first round pick. I think that's appropriate value.
Easy.
Anything, if you can convince a league mate of yours that Cam Akers might be fine, do it and get a first round pick in return, because it's a very uphill battle that he's climbing. And unfortunately for us as Cam Akers truthers, it's very hard to come back from an Achilles tear.
Yep, absolutely agree. And going into the next move, I'll quickly read it out, but phenomenal deal. Listen, we're a little bit lower, comparatively on Deontay Johnson.
I'd rather have him than Sutton, straight up.
I'd rather have him than Sutton. And the fact that you're getting for Kareem Hunt, who, keep in mind, is still a handcuff running back. Listen, I get it. People want to argue standalone value. Okay, what standalone value? Like high-end RB3 talent? Like, no, that's not going to get you anything. You're able to turn that into not only a 2023 first, but also a 2022 second. Great trade here. So overall, he puts the net of his deals. That's probably what's going to be on the screen regardless. He ended up sending Akers, Ridley, Sutton, Hunt, and Jeff Wilson. And in return, ended up with 5 1s, 5 2s, and a 3. Phenomenal.
Yeah. And overall, looking at his team, I would say you're in phenomenal shape. You're in, 2023 and beyond shape, because you have 2 franchise quarterbacks. If we want to look at it from a dynasty perspective, you have a couple franchise receivers, I would argue as well.
Yeah.
I mean, your running backs maybe leave a little bit to be desired. You have a couple guys on your roster that I would be looking to move, especially at running back. Damian Harris, Ronald Jones, and Darrell Henderson are short-term running backs. Even though they're all young, I still think their primary value is going to come in the short term because they are running backs. We generally don't see even guys of Ronald Jones and Damian Harris and Darrell Henderson's talent level sustain, RB2 level production into their 25, 26, 27-year-old seasons. Usually you need to be an elite running back to be that effective for that long. So I'd be looking to sell some of those guys, Damian Harris, Ronald Jones, Darrell Henderson.
Yep, absolutely agree. And don't worry about his running back position long term, because he's got 10 firsts across the next 3 years.
Your running backs are not on your team. Your franchise running backs are going to come in the 2022 class, the 2023 class, and the 2024 class.
Yep, absolutely agree. So great deals there. But overall, we made it through this video, about 54 minutes in. If you guys have made it through this whole video and have enjoyed so far, again, like it up, baby. Let's fucking get Dynasty decisions to the fucking moon. That being said, Corey, anything else you want to add before I head out of here?
Yeah, and if you guys got some value out of this video, as always, go and deposit on Underdog Fantasy. It helps us out tremendously, obviously, and you guys get 2 free draft guides for doing so. You sign up and deposit using promo code FSC. Link is in the description. You will get $25 free to play with on top of your initial deposit of $10, and you'll get both of our draft guides totally for free. You will not find a better deal out there. You'll also get a chance to be in our listener redraft league if you're hoping to be in a league with us by using that promo code. So if you support what we're doing, if we've broken down a team for you, for example, and you guys thought it was a valuable thing that we were offering you, then please go ahead and do so and deposit on Underdog to help us out.
Yep, absolutely. So with that being said, we'll see you back for tomorrow's Dynasty decisions. As always, take care, y'all.
Wire me the money.